My child, stop for a moment and listen carefully, because this instant is not ordinary, and what is happening around you right now is not as simple as it appears. I am interrupting your thoughts because something has already shifted, even if your eyes have not yet recognized it. You may have opened this moment thinking it would be like every other moment, another passing word, another ordinary pause in your day. But I tell you now, this is not ordinary, and you must hear me with full attention because heaven has already marked this hour differently. Something changed after the battle you thought was only another hard season. Something moved after the pain you believed was only another burden to carry. While you were trying to survive, what exhausted you? While you were asking why the pressure would not lift? While you were holding yourself together when no one understood how difficult it had become, you were passing a hidden test that you did not even know was before you. You thought you were simply enduring another difficult chapter, but I was watching every silent response, every tear you refused to let destroy your faith, every time you stayed standing when everything inside you wanted to collapse. You did not realize that heaven was measuring what your heart would do when no explanation arrived, when no immediate answer appeared, when no visible sign came to comfort you. And now I tell you clearly, you passed what many fail. You remained where others would have abandoned hope. You endured where others would have turned away. You stayed under pressure where many would have chosen bitterness. That is why I am speaking now with urgency, because this moment did not begin when you started listening. This moment began the day you refused to give up when your strength was nearly gone. My child, hear me closely because what opens tonight may not remain waiting if you delay again. I do not say this to bring fear into your heart, but to awaken your spirit to the seriousness of timing. There are moments when heaven opens quietly, and because they do not arrive with noise, many fail to recognize them until they have already passed. What I place before you in certain hours cannot always be carried into another season unchanged. There are times when one delayed response becomes the reason you spend longer wandering through what could have shifted sooner. You have asked me why some answers seem near but not fully arriving, why certain things feel close yet remain unfinished, why your spirit senses movement but your hands still feel empty. Listen carefully now, not every answer comes by waiting longer. Some answers arrive when you move the moment I speak. Some doors remain open only for the obedient step that matches the hour I design. One slow response can postpone what heaven prepared because hesitation often hides where trust should stand. I know your heart has learned caution because of past disappointments. I know you have told yourself that waiting protects you from pain. But there are moments when delay no longer protects. It quietly steals. And this hour carries more weight than you understand. Tonight holds movement tied to what you already survived, and if you continue telling yourself there is still time while ignoring what I placed before you, you may stand near an opening yet fail to enter it. The fire you survived, my child, was never punishment. I need you to understand this because you questioned it many times when the pressure would not break, when the silence stretched too long, when what you expected from me did not happen in the way you imagined. You wondered if I had become distant, if I had stepped back, if the heaviness meant I was displeased with you. But no, what you survived was proof that something greater was being examined inside you while unseen doors were being arranged beyond what your eyes could see. Fire reveals what comfort cannot reveal. Pressure exposes what calm can keep hidden. In the heat of what nearly exhausted you, your true response came forward. I saw how you spoke when no one answered you. I saw what you did when your heart was tired. I saw how many times you wanted to stop believing yet still whispered hope even when your voice felt weak. that fire was not sent to destroy you. It was allowed because there were parts of you that had to become strong enough for what is now approaching. While you thought you were only surviving pain, arrangements were already forming beyond your sight. Doors you could not yet see were being positioned while your heart was being refined. People you do not know were being moved. Situations were quite changing. What seemed like stillness was not empty. What felt delayed was not forgotten. I was examining what could trust me without visible proof, because what comes next requires a strength that only fire can produce. Many around you think nothing changed, my child. They look at you and assume you are standing in the same place, carrying the same ordinary life, walking through the same familiar days. They do not know what heaven recorded while you were quietly enduring. They did not see the exact moment you chose restraint when anger wanted control. They did not see the exact night you held yourself together when grief wanted to pull you apart. They did not hear the prayer you whispered when exhaustion had already taken almost everything from you. But heaven saw it all. Heaven marked the precise second when you endured what others would have abandoned. There are moments no human being applauds, but heaven writes them permanently. There are victories with no audience except me, yet they become turning points greater than public success. When you stayed faithful in the unseen, when you chose not to surrender your spirit to bitterness, when you kept walking though nothing outward seemed to reward you, I recorded every detail. Others may think your season has been ordinary because they only see what is visible, but heaven does not judge your life by appearances. Heaven recorded hidden obedience, hidden endurance, hidden trust, and those hidden moments now speak louder than you know. What people call nothing, heaven calls evidence. What others overlooked became part of what now opens before you. Right, thank you, Father, for every miracle if you've seen His hand move. So listen carefully and do not leave this message unfinished, because one instruction near the end is tied to what I am releasing now. I tell you this because distraction has stolen many things from you before. There were times when your attention drifted just before understanding arrived. There were moments when you stepped away too soon and missed what your spirit needed to hear. Not now. Stay with me in this moment, because what I am speaking is not casual comfort. It is direction. One instruction connected to this hour is already moving toward your hands, and if you treat this lightly, you may overlook the very thing you asked me to reveal. I know how quickly the mind wants to wander when the heart grows uncomfortable. I know how easily you tell yourself you will return later. But later has often become the hiding place of lost opportunities. Remain here. Let every word settle deeply, because there is something specific your spirit must recognize before this hour passes. My child, silence is now becoming dangerous because the season has changed. What was right yesterday may become disobedience today. There was a time when silence protected you, when waiting guarded what I was forming, when not speaking kept certain things safe while roots grew unseen. But now I tell you plainly, if you keep remaining still where I am asking movement, silence can become delay. Seasons change, and obedience must change without. What once required patience may now require immediate response. What once required restraint may now require courage. Do not assume yesterday's instruction remains correct simply because it once protected you. I am leading you forward, and if you continue using old caution in a new season, you may mistake hesitation for wisdom. There are things I now expect you to answer, places I expect you to step, decisions I expect you to stop postponing. Silence was holy when waiting was necessary, but silence becomes harmful when I have already spoken enough for movement. And now hear this carefully, my child. Something already placed before you contains part of the answer you have been praying for, but hesitation is covering your eyes. You keep expecting the answer to arrive in a larger form, in a clearer sign, in something impossible to misunderstand. Yet part of what you asked me for is already near you. It may look simple. It may look ordinary. It may even look too small compared to what you imagined. But I often place beginnings inside ordinary things because I am watching whether you can recognize my hand without spectacle. Something before you already carries movement. A conversation, a decision, a step, a release, a response, an unfinished act. You already sense it. But hesitation keeps making you question what your spirit has recognized. Stop asking for another sign while standing in front of what I've already touched. Stop waiting for certainty so complete that no faith is needed. I am telling you now because breakthrough is nearer than you think, but hesitation can still blur what is already in reach. Open your eyes. Listen deeply. Move when I show you. What you survived was not to leave you standing at the edge again. I did not bring you through that fire so you would freeze now when the opening has already begun. Please support our channel. Our work is to bring happiness in your life and devotion to God. And if you want, you can donate to us via given link in description or pinned comment to show your support. My child, I want you to understand something that your heart has struggled to name for a long time, because many days you believe you were simply surviving pain, simply enduring another heavy season, simply trying to make it through hours that felt longer than they should have felt. You thought the pressure around you was only another difficult chapter, another stretch of life where answers were delayed and strength had to be borrowed one day at a time. But while you were trying to survive what felt unbearable, heaven was measuring something deeper than your outward endurance. Heaven was watching trust during silence. Heaven was observing what your spirit would do when no explanation arrived, when no immediate comfort appeared, when the prayers you whispered seemed to rise into a silence that gave nothing back to your emotions. You believed you were only carrying pain, but there was a hidden test unfolding inside the ordinary moments you nearly dismissed as meaningless struggle. I was watching whether your trust would remain when you could not trace what I was doing. I was watching whether your heart would still turn toward me when your mind had no evidence to hold. I was watching the quiet decisions no one else saw, because true trust is rarely measured when everything is easy. It is measured when silence stretches long enough to test what you truly believe. There were hidden tests placed inside delayed answers, and many times you did not even realize that every day you continued waiting without visible proof was itself part of what heaven was recording. You asked me why certain doors remained closed when you had prayed so sincerely. You wondered why what seemed ready still did not move. You questioned why answers appeared nearer and then became distant again. In those moments you thought the pain was only in the waiting itself. But what you could not see was that waiting was revealing what your heart would cling to when certainty was absent. Delay became a hidden place where trust had to breathe without support. Every day that you did not receive what you asked for immediately became another page of evidence before heaven. You did not understand why some things took longer than expected, why what you hoped would shift quickly remained unchanged. But I tell you now that delay was never empty. Delay became the room where trust either weakened or deepened. Many people praise loudly when answers come quickly, but heaven pays close attention to those who remain steady when answers do not arrive according to desire. You stayed present in many moments where frustration wanted to rule you, and even when confusion sat heavily upon your thoughts, you did not completely let go of me. That mattered more than you know. There were hidden tests inside betrayal too, my child, because betrayal always reveals whether pain will harden the heart or deepen wisdom. You did not expect certain wounds. You did not imagine that some words would cut so deeply, or that some people you trusted would become part of the burden you had to carry. There were moments when you gave sincerity and received misunderstanding, moments when you offered patience and met disappointment, moments when loyalty was not returned in the way you believed it would be. What hurt you most was not only what happened, but how suddenly what felt safe became painful. In those hours, heaven was watching something sacred. Heaven was watching whether betrayal would pull you into bitterness, whether wounded emotions would become your master, whether pain would teach you revenge or restraint. Many fail in that hidden place. Many allow betrayal to write their spirit until they no longer trust anything holy. Many surrender peace because they cannot bear what unfairness awakens inside them. But you, though wounded, did not completely surrender your heart to darkness. Even when you struggled, even when your thoughts wrestled with sorrow, even when you had questions with no immediate answer, you remained standing. That standing mattered. Not because you felt strong every day, but because you did not allow your soul to become what hurt you. There were hidden tests inside: emotional exhaustion, the kind no one around you fully understood because outwardly you still appeared to continue while inwardly you were near your limit. There were mornings when you woke already tired before the day had begun. There were nights when even simple thoughts felt heavy. There were hours when speaking felt difficult because too much had accumulated inside you without release. You wondered why the smallest things suddenly felt larger than before, why your heart reacted strongly to what once seemed manageable. But heaven saw what exhaustion was pressing against. Exhaustion tests whether trust remains when energy disappears. It tests whether your spirit can still whisper faith when strength no longer feels available. Many fail there because exhaustion often convinces the heart that silence means abandonment. Exhaustion tells the soul that nothing is changing, that nothing is listening, that nothing matters anymore. Yet even in exhaustion you still turned toward me in ways you did not recognize as victory. Sometimes it was only one quiet thought asking for help. Sometimes it was simply refusing to collapse into complete despair. Sometimes it was breathing through another day when everything felt heavy. Heaven counts those moments because endurance is often hidden inside what looks ordinary. And I saw the unanswered nights, my child, the nights where thoughts stretched long after others slept, when questions became louder because the world around you grew quiet. Light often magnifies what day can distract. In darkness, worries return with sharper edges. Memories speak louder. Fears ask questions the daylight pushes aside. You lay awake many times carrying things no one fully knew. You asked why answers delayed, why peace came and then faded, why some burdens remained after so much prayer. Those nights became part of the hidden test too. Heaven was not absent from them. Every night you did not understand yet still reached toward me became evidence. Every time tears came and you still whispered, even a broken prayer became evidence. Every moment you wanted certainty but received silence became evidence. You believed some nights were wasted because nothing outward changed by morning, but I tell you now that heaven recorded those hours carefully. Silence never means absence when I'm measuring what trust becomes under pressure. Repeated waiting also became part of the test, because repeated waiting can wear the soul more deeply than sudden pain. A single hard moment often passes quickly, but repeated waiting asks the heart the same question again and again. Will you still trust when what you hope for remains unfinished? There were times you thought, perhaps today something will move. Perhaps now the answer will come. Perhaps now what hath been delayed will finally open. Then another day passed. Another week passed. Another season seemed to repeat itself. This repetition became heavy because hope had to rise again and again without visible reward. Yet each time you continued, heaven counted it. Every time disappointment visited but did not fully destroy your ability to look upward, heaven counted it. Every time you chose not to react in anger when your emotions wanted immediate release, heaven counted it. You may not understand how sacred restraint became in those moments, but restraint often speaks louder in heaven than loud declarations made in comfort. Every tear mattered, my child. Not one tear disappeared without meaning. Tears are often misunderstood because people think tears only show weakness, but heaven reads tears differently. Tears often reveal where words cannot go. They reveal what the heart carries when language fails. I saw every tear shed in private places, every tear quickly wiped away before anyone noticed, every tear that came because you were too tired to explain your pain. Those tears became evidence, not because sorrow itself earns anything, but because many of those tears still carried trust hidden inside them. You cried, and yet you did not curse what you could not understand. You hurt, and yet you did not completely walk away. You tremble, and yet something in you still remained open toward me. Heaven reported that carefully. Come in Jesus, I'm forever yours if His love has captured you completely. Every time you restrained yourself instead of reacting became evidence too. There were words you could have spoken that would have wounded deeply, but you remained quiet. There were moments anger wanted immediate expression, yet you held it back. There were times you could have answered harshness with harshness, but you chose silence because something inside you knew not every reaction deserves release. You may think those moments were small, but heaven never treats restraint lightly. Many fell exactly there. Many pass through pain only to lose peace in one uncontrolled moment. Many endure long seasons but collapse at the point where emotions demand immediate power. Yet you remain standing where many fall. You stayed quiet in moments where reaction would have been easy. You held yourself when emotion pushed strongly. That standing became part of why this season has changed more than you know. Yes, my child, many fell exactly where you remain standing. Many endure until betrayal comes, then surrender their peace. Many wait until delay grows long, then abandon trust. Many continue until exhaustion deepens, then decide silence means nothing holy is near. Many pray until unanswered nights become too many, then withdraw completely. But you remain standing. Not perfectly, not without struggle, not without questions, not without moments where your heart felt weak, but you remain standing. Heaven does not require flawless emotion to recognize faithfulness. Heaven looks at whether the heart remains turned toward me even while trembling. That is why what you passed has meaning beyond what you currently understand. And now hear this clearly. Passing this hidden test changed what heaven can now release. Certain things could not be trusted into hands still ruled by reactions born from fear. Certain doors could not open while deeper trust was still forming. Certain answers waited not because I forgot you, but because what was being formed inside you mattered just as much as what you were asking to receive. Now that this hidden measure has shifted, release becomes possible in ways you have not yet fully seen. The season is changing not because your pain impressed heaven, but because trust remained alive where many lose it. What is prepared ahead carries weight, and hidden trust had to become stronger before visible movement arrived. What you thought was only survival has become part of why heaven now responds differently. So do not despise what you endured. Do not call wasted what heaven used carefully. The test you did not know you were in has already spoken before me, and because you remain standing, what can now be released has changed. My child, I know there were moments when you looked at everything happening around you, and quietly wondered if the fire meant I had stepped away from you. There were days when the pressure became so intense that you questioned whether I had withdrawn my hand, whether the heaviness meant you had somehow fallen outside my care, whether the silence inside the pain meant rejection had entered places where love once felt clear. But listen to me now with full attention. The fire was never rejection. It was never proof that I had turned my face away. It was never evidence that you had been abandoned. What you felt as burning was not my refusal of you. It was my refusal to allow certain hidden things to remain untouched when I knew where I was taking you next. Fire often feels harsh when you stand inside it because it touches what comfort leaves hidden. It reaches places gentle seasons cannot expose. It reveals what can survive truth and what cannot endure what is holy. You saw pain and thought perhaps something was ending because I was displeased. But what was ending had more to do with what could not continue than with my love withdrawing from you. I did not place you in that season to destroy you. I allowed heat because there were things attached to your life that could not remain if you were to walk into what is ahead. The pressure exposed hidden weakness that you did not fully know was there. Some weaknesses do not appear while life feels manageable. They stay quiet until weight presses hard enough to reveal what is unstable beneath the surface. You believed you were stronger in certain places until pressure touched the very area where fear still lived quietly, where doubt still lingered in forms you had learned to ignore, where your dependence on visible reassurance had become deeper than you realized. Pressure revealed how quickly certain thoughts rose when answers delayed. Pressure showed how easily old fears tried to speak when certainty disappeared. Pressure uncovered how much your peace and still depended on outcomes instead of on me. This was not shown to shame you. I revealed weakness because hidden weakness can't be healed while it remains hidden. I do not expose to humiliate. I expose so I may strengthen what truth has uncovered. The fire became the place where you saw reactions in yourself that surprised you, thoughts you did not expect, emotions that rose stronger than you imagined. You wondered why certain things surfaced so sharply, but it was because heat draws hidden things upward. What remained buried in calm could no longer remain buried when destiny approached. The fire also removed false attachments, and this part often hurt more than you expected because some attachments felt so normal that you did not realize how deeply they had rooted themselves into your peace. There were people, patterns, comforts, and expectations you had leaned on without noticing how much weight you had given them. Some attachments looked harmless because they had been with you for a long time. Some felt necessary because they became familiar during lonely seasons. But familiarity is not always destiny, and what becomes familiar is not always meant to remain. The fire touched attachments you once thought were part of your strength, only to reveal that some of them quietly weakened your spirit by keeping your heart tied to what could not walk with you further. You felt the pain of separation in places where I was loosening what your heart had learned to cling to. You thought losing certain things meant losing stability, but often what feels stable is only habit dressed as safety. I was removing what comforted you but could not carry you where I am leading you. And motives were being purified too, my child, because even sincere hearts still carry motives that need refining when greater things draw near. You prayed for change, but part of what needed changing was not only around you. It was within the hidden reasons behind certain desires, hidden fears beneath certain prayers, hidden expectations tied to outcomes you believed you wanted for the right reason. Fire purifies motives because pressure asks the heart why it truly longs for what it seeks. Some things you asked for carried deeper questions inside them. Did you desire them for peace, for recognition, for relief, for proof, for control, for healing, or because you trusted my will fully? Fire made those questions unavoidable. It forced deeper honesty. You learned that sometimes the heart speaks noble words while still quietly fearing loss, fearing delay, fearing not being seen. I allowed purification because what is ahead cannot rest safely inside motives still mixed with hidden needs that would later burden you. Purified motives create freedom because they remove the weight of needing outcomes to define worth. There were moments you truly believed you were losing strength because the season did not feel like growth. It felt like depletion. It felt like too much had been taken at once. It felt as though the strength you once trusted had disappeared. You noticed how quickly energy faded, how easily emotions became heavy, how simple things sometimes felt larger than before. You wondered if you were becoming weaker, if something inside you had broken, if perhaps you were no longer who you once were. But hear me clearly, you were not losing strength in the way you feared. I was separating you from forms of strength that could not enter your next season. Some strength looked strong but was built on controlling everything. Some strength looked reliable but depended on always knowing what came next. Some strength was really self-protection disguised as wisdom. Some strength came from holding tightly rather than trusting deeply. What felt like weakness was often the breaking down of what could no longer remain your foundation. I was teaching you a deeper strength that does not panic when visibility fades, a strength that survives when outcomes remain incomplete, a strength rooted in trust rather than constant certainty. That is why some relationships burned, my child, and this part wounded you because relationships often carry emotional roots stronger than words can explain. Some people were never evil, yet they still could not walk with you where you are being led. Some relationships held patterns that fed old fears, old insecurities, old versions of you that destiny could not continue feeding. Some bonds felt precious but were built around mutual weakness rather than mutual truth. Some people only fit the version of you that was still learning survival, but they could not remain attached to the version of you now being prepared for greater clarity. You asked why distance appeared where closeness once lived, why certain conversations changed, why some people no longer understood you the way they once did. Not every separation is punishment. Some separations happen because two paths can no longer remain joined when one heart is being called deeper. Fire touched relationships because some bonds could not survive the atmosphere of where I am taking you. What could not endure truth had to weaken before it could continue weakening you. Certain thus burned you. Thoughts you had repeated so long they almost felt like truth. Thoughts that quietly told you delay meant failure. Thoughts that said silence meant abandonment. Thoughts that convinced you that if people misunderstood you, then something must be wrong with your worth. Thoughts that made fear sound wise and hesitation sound safe. The fire exposed how often those thoughts rose when pressure increased. You saw how quickly the mind returns to old conclusions when emotions feel threatened. But those thoughts cannot survive where I am leading you because the next season requires inner language shaped by truth, not by old survival patterns. I allowed the fire to confront your thinking because destiny cannot flourish inside a mind still ruled by assumptions born from past wounds. Certain habits burned as well, habits that once helped you cope but now quietly prevented deeper freedom. Habits of withdrawing too quickly when pain returned. Habits of overthinking until simple obedience became difficult. Habits of delaying what your spirit already knew I had spoken. Habits of searching endlessly for confirmation because fear did not want responsibility. Habits of protecting yourself from disappointment by expecting little. These habits may have helped you survive former seasons, but survival habits cannot become permanent if you are to enter what is prepared ahead. Fire always makes habits visible because pressure reveals what you run toward when peace feels threatened. I allowed the discomfort because habits that remain hidden often remain powerful. And understand this deeply. The fire was painful because destiny was near. The closer a new season comes, the less hidden things can remain untouched. I would not allow you to step into what is prepared, carrying attachments, motives, thoughts, habits, and bonds that would fracture under the weight of what is ahead. Fire intensifies near transition because what enters the next season must survive what the next season demands. If the pressure felt unusually sharp, it was not because I was far away. It was because preparation had become urgent. The pain did not mean rejection. It meant something valuable was too near for hidden weakness to remain unaddressed. So do not call that fire meaningless. Do not reduce that painful season to loss alone. What burned needed burning because what remains after true fire is stronger, clearer, freer, and more able to carry what heaven intends to release. Destiny was not far while you burned. Destiny was near enough that I refused to let what could destroy it remain hidden any longer. That is why the fire came when it came, why it touched what it touched, why it lasted longer than you expected. I was not rejecting you, my child. I was making room in you for what could not arrive until certain things lost their hold. My child, there was truly a season when silence protected you, and I want you to understand that I do not deny the purpose silence once served in your life. There were moments when your quietness guarded what was still fragile inside you. There were days when not speaking saved you from explaining what was not yet ready to be understood. There were seasons when silence kept you from reacting too early, from moving before clarity formed, from exposing what needed time to deepen beneath the surface. I taught you silence because your spirit once needed stillness more than action. I allowed you to remain hidden because not every seed survives when uncovered too early. Some things had to grow where no voice interfered, where no outside opinion touched them, where no pressure from others forced movement before maturity. Silence became a shelter when your heart was still learning what my voice sounded like beneath all the other voices that once controlled your decisions. Silence protected your healing when wounds were fresh. Silence protected your mind when emotions were unstable. Silence protected your direction when too many people around you would have spoken from their own fears rather than from truth. So do not think I am saying silence was wrong. No, there was wisdom in your quietness then. There was protection in what I asked you not to rush. There was mercy in what I allowed to remain hidden while roots were forming in places even you did not yet understand. Type thank you, Lord, for new beginnings if He's brought you out of the past. And share this video.